Welcome to The Doolette, a Scooby-Doo podcast where we watch a random Scooby-Doo movie every week. My name is Mac, and spinning the wheel is Van. Van, go ahead and spin that wheel.
Once again, we submit ourselves to the wheel. We must obey utterly. Wheel, what dost thou say? Scooby-Doo and the Samurai Sword from the yonder year of 2009.
So it looks like we'll be proceeding in a slightly linear fashion this week. Van, do you have any familiarity with Scooby-Doo and the Samurai Sword?
Just from the title, I'm gonna say it seems lame. It's not a very spooky title. There's so many interesting things you could do in Japan, though, with like yokai and stuff like that. So I'm gonna remain hopeful, but it's Scooby-Doo.
I think I have seen this on television, but I did not watch it. Like, it's probably one of those movies that was like on around the time when I was less interested in watching Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, 2009. I mean, at that point, it's just sort of there. If you're watching it, you're just passively absorbing it.
Yeah, so I'll be interested to see where the quality goes, up or down wise.
Me too.
Scooby-Doo and Shaggy, two fearless warriors.
Looks like our reputation precedes us.
Join the mystery gang as they take on Tokyo
Like meow. Talk about a kung fu cat fight.
and the ghost of an ancient samurai in the biggest adventure of their lives. Without fear, without hesitation.
And without lunch breaks. A Scooby snack vending machine. Finally, something worth fighting for.
So tighten your black belt for the ultimate Scooby-Doo adventure.
We're rolling old school, samurai style.
The all-new movie, Scooby-Doo and the Samurai Sword. Look for it only on DVD. Scooby-Doo!
All right, well, we just got back from watching Scooby-Doo and the Samurai Sword. Van, how did you feel about this film?
I dreamed a dream of time gone by. I just think of that intro we recorded, how hopeful we were, and how this movie just smashed our youthful, naive dreams.
Yeah, I would say overall, I felt like this Scooby-Doo was definitely on the bottom quartile of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I've probably only seen like half a dozen Scooby-Doo movies, but I'm going to rank this clear at the bottom of everything I've seen. It was just not even mediocre. It was just not good.
To get mathematical, I'd say at least 75% of all Scooby-Doo movies are better than this film.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think there were a couple bright spots, but for the most part, it was just persistent suck.
This is the last film to feature Casey Kasem in the role of Shaggy, and I honestly, if I had to guess, this is probably the reason he quit.
This film broke Casey Kasem.
Yeah.
He's never been the same after.
Well, I mean, he does have the most to do out of any of the original voice actors in any given movie. Yeah.
Hardest working man, they call him, Casey Kasem.
All right, well, let's go in the breakdown and see if we can't find anything interesting to talk about.
Because there was nothing interesting in this movie.
Yeah. All right, so the gang is going to Japan, and they have arrived in Shibuya Station, the most, recognizable spot in Japan.
Yeah, and that's pretty much all we really see of Japan in this movie. Like, I was expecting some going around and shopping and really terrible puns. Like, Zoinks gang, that samurai's trying to turn my waifu into a daifu.
That sounded actually exactly like Shaggy.
Wow. Jeez, no wonder Casey Kasem quit.
Yeah.
I'm coming for him.
You can do the Matthew Lillard approach and just yell in your car for hours before auditioning.
That's the movie. It's like any classic samurai movie where they have to take down the 7 samurai like warlords and stuff
Right.
to be the top dog. I have to fight all the Shaggys and then all the Velmas and then all the Daphnes till I am Scooby-Doo as some horrific Akira-like blob entity.
And I can only imagine you doing so while wearing a yellow motorcycle jacket, like Jackie Chan.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were going for like Uma Thurman, but I'll take either.
Yeah, well, either way, it's they're both from the same idea.
Shibuya Station, the most popular meeting place in all of Tokyo.
And I can see why. Everyone in Japan is already here.
So, yeah, they arrive in Shibuya, they see one crosswalk and a statue.
Yeah, they see the statue of the dog whose name I can't remember, but if you've seen any like Travel Channel thing about Japan, you know what this dog is. It's just a place a bunch of people meet up, and like I said, that's it. We see nothing else specifically Japanese, really.
Yeah, I mean, they get a little mileage out of the fact that it's a dog, and Scooby-Doo, I don't know if you noticed this, Van, also a dog.
Wow. It's like you're dropping a house on me, man.
Well, the only notable thing that really happens there is they run into their friend Miyumi, because the main reason they're in Japan is that Daphne is there for a karate tournament.
Ooh, wow. I can't wait till this is the most important part of the plot.
We're not here to solve any mysteries this time.
We're just here to watch Daphne compete in the big martial arts competition.
I'm so honored to be invited to the tournament.
And so should you be. Miss Miramoto runs the most exclusive martial arts academy in all the world. Only the most exemplary students are accepted by her. But first, you must survive the tournament.
It's an interesting approach. I think it's a reference to her sort of karate prowess in the Scooby-Doo live-action film.
Yeah, I was actually excited for the karate thing because Daphne really doesn't have a lot to do in Scooby-Doo a lot of the time, aside from get kidnapped. So when the karate thing was announced, I was sort of pumped at first.
Yeah, it seemed like an interesting approach. I was hopeful that we'd get a little bit more action from the other three characters that are also in this gang.
But of course, we don't. And we also get very little Daphne because, as we'll see later, it's a fake out.
For all intents and purposes, a Daphne-centric plot, and she does almost nothing in the film.
Yeah, she completely disappears by Act 2.
Yeah. So they run into Miyumi, but, she emerges from the shadows from behind the statue. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't.
She does it later, too. I mean, I think it's a combination of bad foreshadowing, literally, and bad scene composition.
Yeah. I want to say you were giving them too much credit with the foreshadowing, but I think the scene composition inadvertently works in their favor.
Yeah. Even not knowing who the villain was going to be, I'm like, oh, well, obviously she's involved somehow.
Oh, totally.
Well, because the other thing is they hop in a high-tech drone-style plane.
A very Japanese feature, apparently, because they take pains to emphasize technology's big in Japan and it's the future. While they're flying this plane below building level in one of the most populous cities in the world.
It's amazing. It's a cool shot as far as these things are, but it just doesn't make any sense if you know anything about aviation.
I just wonder what the director or writer was thinking. Like, Japan, that's where they got those planes that fly at building level piloted by robots, right?
Yeah, and they end up using this a little bit throughout the film, so it's not just a throwaway thing, but it's set up very clumsily.
Very.
And the only other interesting thing to note in their plane flying scene is that Miyumi also goes to say, as the new technology comes in, the old traditions fade away. She sort of wistfully looks off in the distance. And you're like, I wonder what her motivations are going to be.
What could they be?
Here in Japan, technology is taking over everything, while many of the old traditions are fading away.
Straight from Shibuya, they fly in their magic plane to this island that's sort of like 3 tall mountains with a monastery on top of it. That's kind of basically it, right?
Yeah, that's basically it.
It's a dojo for, I guess, karate. It's run by a sensei character.
Yeah, Miss Miramoto.
Yeah, Miss Miramoto is how they call her. And she's got a right-hand man in Sojo, sort of the big, strong, silent type.
Yeah, except his introduction is, as the plane pulls up to the island, he quotes Fantasy Island and runs up to a gong, starts hitting it and shouting, "De plane, de plane!" And it's like, how many kids in 2009 were well-versed in Fantasy Island?
I can assure you almost none. I think the only people who would get the reference are people who've seen the reference before.
Yeah, and all the listeners to our acclaimed Fantasy Island podcast.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that, where we watch a random scene from Fantasy Island every week.
Yeah, our secret dark web Fantasy Island podcast.
Also there is Professor Takagawa. He is trying to warn Miss Miramoto that her scroll's in danger.
Yeah. Oh, we forgot to mention the cold open.
This is a good time to bring up the cold open because Professor Takagawa's in the cold open And he runs some sort of museum that's, got a little pagoda style thing. And he's like, nobody wants to see the old museums anymore. Japan hates their own history. They're only interested in new technology, which is definitely 100% true. He thinks this new exhibit of the Black Samurai is going to turn this museum business around.
Yeah, he's got a museum display case filled with samurai armor of the Black Samurai. And he never really says, like, hey, this is the armor. He's just saying, this is the Black Samurai. So does he assume that there's like a body inside there? Because if so, it's a little ghoulish.
Based on what we see later, there may very well be a body inside that.
Oh, I think there definitely is, but it's just sort of weird that no one comments upon that. Like, it'd be one thing if this was in Egypt and it was the Black Mummy, but this is the Black Samurai, where you usually don't expect corpses to be outfitted in the armor you see at museums.
Yeah.
Or maybe you do. I never read those little labels on the side of the display cases. Maybe I'm in the wrong here.
The upshot of this scene is that the Black Samurai, surprise, surprise, comes to life and flies out of the building. And Professor Takagawa is very upset, so he ends up making his way to this fantasy island of karate and trying to warn Miss Miyamoto, who's got the next piece of the puzzle. So he had the sword and the armor. She's got the scroll, which tells you where another sword is, I guess.
Yes, the Scroll of Destiny.
The ghost of the Black Samurai has returned. Soon, he will come for the Destiny Scroll.
A very entertaining story, Mr. Takagawa.
Anyway, we meet most of the characters at this point. Miyumi, she's a student of the karate school. She's going to be participating in the tournament. Daphne's going to be participating in the tournament. There's a bunch of... What would you describe these characters as?
Characters who seem like they're going to matter, but don't. There's like this gorgeous shot, gorgeous in its stupidity, of like 50 students at the dojo all wearing yellow gis.
Right.
And then up front, there is the Scooby gang all wearing white gis with color-coded trim, Miyumi wearing her own color-coded gi, and 3 others. You have an Irishman, whose name I don't remember.
And it's the most bland person, like even in character design, the most bland out of any of them.
Yeah, it was funny. Miyumi was saying he's the Irish national champion, and my mind just sort of flashed like, wait, was this guy like in the IRA or something?
Yep.
Oh, I got sick of making bombs, so now I'm fighting with me fists. Yeah, so there's the Irish champion.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a Russian with the obligatory eye patch and then lightning-shaped scar underneath, because you can't have an eye patch without a scar if you have an accent.
Yeah, a real femme fatale type.
Yeah.
If she had anything to do.
And then there is Mad Dog Morimoto, I think his name was.
Yeah, and he just literally behaves like a dog.
That's his whole gimmick. He's got big bulldog jowls, and he eats out of a bowl and is on a chain. And I started to hate this movie right around his introduction, because Miyumi just makes the worst string of puns I have ever heard in my life. Like, once he gets off the chain, he's gonna chew your bones. This Mad Dog, and it's just insufferable. Leave it to Shaggy.
And that's Japan's own Mad Dog Masimoto, a favorite to win this year. Once he's off his leash, you're really in the doghouse.
I agree. This movie lost me right around the same exact spot. At this point, I've realized like 2 of the male like characters are like these big, dumb, brutish, like strong men.
Oh, the most generic Scooby-Doo large guy design possible.
It lost me just because I'm like, why would he be known as the Mad Dog? Like, at least use a Japanese phrase.
It's just not good.
I'll just say that at this point, everything seemed very lazy.
Oh, this is an extremely lazy film, as we'll find out later.
So, yeah, we've got a bunch of like characters, and you're sort of setting up for, we've been explicitly told there's going to be a tournament. When do we get to the fun karate tournament? It never happens.
When are they gonna get to the fireworks factory?
We do get a fun taste at first, and I gotta say, all the fighting scenes in this were like, they weren't exciting, but they were very competently done. They clearly got like an actual studio who understood how to animate a fight scene.
Yeah, well, we get basically a preview of what would have been the finals if they had decided to make this movie about a karate tournament, where Daphne, who had sort of like offhandedly sort of suplexed or threw Sojo over her shoulder earlier. They're like, oh, Daphne thinks she's all that.
And a bag of chips.
So they say, well, maybe you should try fighting Mayumi. So Daphne and Mayumi have a sparring match in which Daphne has the upper hand, but Mayumi plays dirty by taking off her headband.
Yeah, Daphne's classic weakness. You watch those old Scooby-Doo, and Daphne is always just like, oh no, my headband, my hair's in my eyes. I can't see without my headband.
She does literally say, my headband, I can't see without my headband, or something to that effect.
My hairband! I can't see!
Oh, but Mayumi beats her and then reveals the motto of the school. He who falls for ruses loses.
Exactly that.
It was something really boring.
That was a dirty trick.
The first rule of Minamoto Academy. If you want to win, you must be willing to do that which others are not willing to do.
I think the only thing authentic about it is it sounds like a badly translated Japanese haiku.
All right, there is that in its favor.
For the tournament, they decide to have a feast with a bunch of really predictable entertainment as far as geishas, sumo wrestlers, just real like Japanese stereotype stuff.
Yeah, I guess it's like everybody sits on the floor, drinks this tea, whatever. I was excited for that kind of thing going in, just because it can be funny when it's over the top, but it was just boring.
They just stuffed it all into one scene and it was very boring.
Yeah, and once again in this movie, Velma has nothing to do, so she just sort of shows up and explains what geishas are.
Yes, she just explains what a geisha is.
Mm-hmm.
Geisha, the ancient Japanese tradition celebrating exquisite beauty.
It's like, what do these geishas do when they're not entertaining guests? I guess they were flown in. Anyway, it's all very weird. Then there's a ninja samurai attack.
Yeah, they're more ninjas than samurai.
Well, the black samurai who's got an army of ninjas attacks.
Yeah, that's it.
And then we've got a chase scene set to another low point in this film. Very terrible music.
Oh, hands down the worst. Like, usually the best that you can hope for these things is kind of like generic but enjoyable pop punk. That's what the Yeti movie we just watched had. Yeah. And it did the job. It got you pumped up. You might not remember it, but it fit the scene. But this was just painful.
I didn't do enough research to know exactly what song they used in the Yeti film. But the closed captioning seemed to imply that it was like an actual song they had just sort of licensed and sort of done a chase sequence sort of choreographed to. In this one, the music was so bad, we did a little bit of research before we started the podcast on who did the music, right?
Yes. It was written, or the lyrics at least, were written by the director / writer of the film.
Right.
I looked up the singer. She seemed to just be some kind of like session musician. I don't want to drag her into this. But the music, all the lyrics were awful. The music just sounded like some non-musical demo track on a keyboard. It's like they banged this out in like 10 minutes over lunch because they really needed a song. And it was just a song about doing the samurai. The most boring dance instruction song possible.
It's very much like they had like a set list and they just got the royalty-free version. Even less royalty-free, they wrote it themselves.
Oh, yeah. Cheaper than free.
This is cheaper than free music.
Yeah. And I was honestly excited for Japanese chase sequences. I mean, there's a lot of good like Japanese bands they could get to do it. Like they could have got Shonen Knife, who did like a dozen songs for Cartoon Network in the early 2000s, something like that.
Yeah. So it seems like they had a lot of great options as far as how to do the music, but they really let themselves down in this situation.
Yeah. I never really considered just how prominent and how important the music is to a good chase sequence, but this just made this extremely generic chase sequence where Scooby and Shaggy are running around and, they eat a lot of food and now they're sumo wrestlers and, now they're doing the obligatory drag bit and they're geishas and it was just an unremarkable chasing.
I will say, Shaggy looks great in a kimono.
He does. To his credit.
He's really working it.
I don't think there's an outfit that our man Norville Rogers couldn't pull off.
I think with that body structure, he can really pull off anything. I mean, Shaggy could be a runway model.
Oh, clearly, yeah. He's got the height. He's got that just narrowness. They like.
Right. I mean, they can do whatever they want. If they need a little bit of extra, meat on those bones, they can just put, padding or whatever. But
yeah. Shaggy can definitely sashay with the best of them.
He can sashay with the best of them. That's right. Mm-hmm. Oh, boy. So anyway, the ninjas attack, and they didn't steal anything, but the only thing they did steal was the scroll that the professor was warning about. And turns out the scroll is sort of the key to finding the other piece of the legendary sword duo.
Yeah. At this point, we get the backstory for the Black Samurai, and it goes, he used to be just some like normal chill samurai, but he wanted a cool fancy sword from actual real sword maker Masamune, but he was kind of impatient. Masamune's like, it'll take me a year. And then his sneaky assistant, actual real sword maker, Murasama, shows up and is like, hey man, I got swords real cheap here. Only take half a year, huh?
Ronan sought out the master sword maker, Masamune. The legendary master agreed to forge the samurai a sword of great mystical power. But it would take an entire year to complete the work. The master's evil-minded apprentice, Muramasa, offered to forge him another sword, but in only half the time.
And
this was honestly probably the highlight of the film for me, because they did it all in sort of like a scroll style like art storyboard.
Yeah, it was sort of like old scroll style / ukiyo-y, woodblock prints. And it was really good.
That was definitely my highlight, right?
Oh, hands down. It was I want to say the most competent. It might have been the one competent scene in this film.
It seemed like that was like their one like authentic thing that was the kernel that they built the story off of.
Yeah, they found out about the dog and then the old sword makers. And it's like, all right, that's it. We don't need any more Japan.
We're not going to look up any more about this. I think somebody had an interesting idea for a script, and then the Scooby-Doo old hands just came in and started throwing in Japanese stuff, or maybe it was the other way around, where there was a bunch of really weird, offensive Japanese stereotypes, and then somebody came in and said, well, I can add a little bit to this.
Find out with our upcoming interview with Casey Kasem himself on the film that broke him.
Yeah. That's a tough get, Casey Kasem.
But they explained that the Black Samurai became the Black Samurai once he picked up the evil, cursed blade that only took a year to forge. And that blade was known as the Sword of Doom.
Right, but the original blade he had commissioned also got made, and that was the Sword of Fate. So the Sword of Fate was sort of given to this green dragon. His name was Green Dragon. Mythically, they are supposed to have fought each other, the Black Samurai and the Green Dragon, each wielding their mythical swords of destiny.
And it's not exciting, but again, it's a very competent fight scene. Like, I think they got a studio who'd done some fighting animes or something before. It's genuinely surprising to see good animation in a Scooby-Doo thing.
At this point in sort of the legacy of animation itself is 2009 is kind of a low point for traditional animation anyway.
Mm-hmm. And a low point for Scooby-Doo.
And a low point for Scooby-Doo. But, a lot of the studios that were sort of traditional animation, he either closed up shop or transitioned to a lot of 3D animation. So the only people really producing it were it was a lot of Korean studios at this point. So, and they only have so many opportunities to work on big projects like this. So, there's some people who were really talented artists who just kind of put their all into the fight scene for Scooby-Doo and the Samurai Sword.
Their blood, sweat, and tears going to make this very mediocre film.
The animation studio is definitely not the weak link in this film.
Yeah, and their names will be lost to time.
We have no idea who it could be.
Like tears in the rain.
So anyway, the ninja attack leads to the scroll getting stolen, but all 4 characters from the dojo emerge from the shadows and explain that actually this was a ruse. And the real scroll is behind this hidden wall. And so then they're like, well, if we can figure out where this Sword of Fate is before the Black Samurai can, then we'll be good, I guess. They pour over the scroll, The professor translates it because nobody else can speak Japanese, apparently.
Not even the Japanese people.
That's his role throughout the movie, but basically being the translator. I don't think Japanese text has changed that much from, the 1700s, I think is when this is supposed to have happened.
I don't know. It might have. I mean, I was just thinking that you have, modern Greek and then like Homeric Greek, but Homer's a lot older than the events going on in this plot. Like, it's not a BC type thing, I don't think.
I'd give him the benefit of the doubt for maybe it being difficult enough that you'd want to expert, but... Anyway, that's what he goes along. It turns out Scooby and Shaggy are apparently really into origami. We didn't know that before this scene, and it's not really expressed after this scene. But this scene, Scooby and Shaggy are really into origami, and they decide, oh, maybe we should fold the scroll.
Yeah, there's some line in the scroll about a paper dragon. So they very quickly grab this priceless scroll and fold it into the shape of an origami dragon. I guess just the classical origami dragon, even though there's probably at least several dozen methods.
Yeah. I mean, the scroll isn't even a square, so there's no, traditional, to this at all, They just decide to make a couple folds and it looks a bit like a dragon. Not a bad-looking dragon, but...
Hey, origami, they got that in Japan, right? All right, put it in the script.
That's brilliant. It's in the movie done.
Yeah, and the riddle upon the dragon reveals to them that the first step in the journey consists of 1,000 steps.
The riddle... pretty terrible. Hated it. Nothing to it. They sort of it's one of those things where they just make a leap of logic and go somewhere.
Yeah, I'm going to rank it number 2 worst. It doesn't make the classic Samson mistake of confusing just, hey, something happened one time. Let me describe it very obliquely with an actual riddle. I guess there actually is something that can be deciphered by outside sources because they do figure out what it means through the magic of Google, which there are many Japanese scrolls and old artworks available online. I have seen many of them. There's lots of Japanese poetry available online or in books. And they want you to believe that this entire time that the samurai needed to steal the scroll to figure out what was on it, to figure out where the magic sword was, because there's no other way to get this information. Yeah. I get he's a samurai and might be confused by what the internet is, but come on, the gang didn't even need to fold that thing because it's probably on Wikipedia.
Well, here's the thing. Basically, the words are all the same. They don't there's no new word created, which is entirely possible if Japanese characters, that a new word could be created from the words from the characters on the page. I mean, possible with English too. So it's all the same words, just in a different order. And if they just plugged all the original words into Google, they probably would have got the very similar Google results as the Google results they got for the ultimate riddle.
I will translate the inscription. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. The paper dragon shows the way.
The words have been rearranged.
Yes, it now reads, the journey begins with 1,000 steps.
The journey begins with 1,000 steps? How is that any different?
Well, all this is to say, they give Velma something to do, which is Google, and then they fly to a small island in Micronesia.
Where there's the Temple of 1,000 Steps.
Yeah, which definitely they wouldn't have been able to figure out without the folding. And they go in the temple, and then there's another puzzle, and then they get captured by basically that tribe from Joe versus the Volcano.
Very exciting. As a luggage problem.
Yeah, it's basically the tribe from Joe vs. Volcano, except they don't have the orange crush fixation.
And, they have a different fixation.
Eating people.
Yep.
Well, they actually just eat men, apparently. There's some very uncomfortable implications, because right after they get captured, all the women are in skimpy outfits, like...
bikinis.
Yeah, bikini tops. I guess they just had a bunch of bikini tops lying around after...
No, coconut bikinis.
Oh, coconut bikinis. Yeah, just... Ew. Yeah, and, hula skirts. Yep. So, it's getting a little jumbled there, but yeah, I guess it's almost interesting by accident, because they're clearly just going for a generic captured slave girl look. Didn't weren't the original settlers of Hawaii from like around that area?
Van, you're thinking twice as much in this than they did when they were putting this together. This is the most thoughtless. They couldn't even stay focused on the Japan theme for 5 seconds.
Yeah, like 5 gosh darn seconds. Well, they're just following the classic dramatic rule, Chekhov's karate tournament, which is if you have a karate tournament foreshadowed in Act 1, never mention it again.
Never, not once.
Throw it out. I'm Chekhov. I hate karate tournaments.
I mean, this movie this is sort of the main problem with this film. It starts off as a vacation Japan movie, then it turns into a kung fu movie for 5 seconds, then it's a National Treasure movie, then it's a Tomb Raider film, and then by the end it's Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Basically. And these parts vary in quality, so switching genres is almost like a relief at points. But it's still just completely messy. And
then in the middle there's a little bit of a Scooby-Doo film.
Oh, sadly, I think it may be too much of a Scooby-Doo film if the general trend is this downward.
Yeah. So anyway, they get captured. Nobody uses their kung fu skills to get them out of the situation because the kung fu movie's over. And it's Velma using her GPS to get the magic plane back over here.
Yeah, and they're afraid that the plane is the Green Dragon.
There's like an okay sort of comedy section where it's Scooby and Shaggy sitting in a pot, and they're like, "Oh, we taste pretty good," because they're weirdos. And and then they like say, "Well, actually, the best way to improve this is, like they start grabbing a bunch of nearby plants and throwing them in the pot." And they're like, wow, now it tastes good. Mm-hmm. And then they trick the guys who are like cooking them to like, you should get in here. The water's nice.
Very bizarre, but I think it's going to be foreshadowing in the blasted post-nuclear world of like 2050 or so, where the one constant is that Scooby-Doo movies are still in production. Shaggy and Scooby and the rest of the gang are immortal at this point. They're jaded. What do Shaggy and Scooby-Doo eat? That's it. They just eat. At this point, they have eaten everything. They're like decayed, decadent vampires. What could remain but the final taboo? A sampling of Long Pig, the most dangerous game.
The most dangerous game? What could it be?
They're gonna run out of food sometime, and they won't die. They can't be stopped.
Yeah. Well, Shaggy is on and off again a vegetarian.
What?
Yes. So Casey Kasem is a vegetarian. So one of his conditions after returning to the role after the original run was that Shaggy would have to be a vegetarian. So in every Casey Kasem film, he's technically a vegetarian. They don't mention it at all, but you won't see actually any meat enter Shaggy's lips.
I have never noticed this.
The problem is that Shaggy changes, like, so for example, he does eat meat in Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, but that's because that's Billy West.
Oh, I forgot that was Billy West.
Yeah, he got a really big role after that, so he wasn't able to continue doing Shaggy. So they brought Casey Kasem out of retirement.
The Case Man.
And at this point, or maybe prior to this, that his ongoing condition of Shaggy being a vegetarian was in force for a lot of these 2000 films. I haven't gone frame by frame on any of this, but ostensibly Shaggy is a vegetarian in this film.
All right, that actually makes a scene that happens later make more sense. We'll get to that. I'll bring it up then.
There's a lot of shenanigans on the cannibal island. They fly off to another second island. They find the Sword of Fate. There's a chase sequence. There's some interesting 3D animation of Easter Island style heads, sort of in this sort of Tomb Raider, Indiana Jones trap that they spring. In the chase that they unmask the Black Samurai.
Yeah. That's where they find the Sword of Doom, right?
The Sword of Doom has been in the possession of the Black Samurai since the beginning of the Cold Open.
Okay.
The Sword of Fate is the second sword that they need to beat this Black Samurai with.
Yeah.
So they find the second sword.
Okay, and then they play keep away, and eventually the Black Samurai hits a wall, and it's like, you got knocked out. Samurai wouldn't do that. And so then in the most pointless unmasking sequence, they fly him all the way to Japan.
Right. They don't go back to Fantasy Island. They go all the way to Japan to go to the museum.
Yeah, the museum where the professor and his clumsy assistant were earlier in the film.
Right.
The Black Samurai's tied up the whole time. They invite Miss Morimoto, and then they pull off the mask, and it's Soju.
And they're like, oh, Soju was flying around because he was using these technologically, using this cool backpack. And
this cool jetpack that nobody saw as Scooby and Shaggy fly around with a very large jetpack with very large wings that we somehow didn't see behind the samurai this whole time.
Yeah, they make a guess at his motivation and say like, oh, you didn't even notice the whole time, Miss Miyamoto. She's like, oh no, I knew the whole time. And I told him to do it.
Yeah, it that was nice foreshadowing, because earlier she did say like, Soju does exactly what I said. And as soon as you see Soju tied up there, you know exactly what is going on.
Yeah, and it turns out even Miyumi, who's been with the gang the whole time helping him out, she's in on it, I guess. She didn't know she was in on it, but she was in on it.
Yeah, and she says, sorry, but I have no choice but to follow my teacher, even though she wants to resurrect the real Black Samurai now that she has the actual Sword of Doom.
And the actual Sword of Fate.
Yeah, and she wants to resurrect him, use him as a slave, and crush this decadent technological Japan and return to the old ways of ghost samurai crushing everybody.
Right. I think it's worth to just sort of take a step back and analyze what her plan was. Mm-hmm. So she had a karate tournament in order to get the best karate people from the world at her dojo.
Yes.
And then she used high-tech cameras to analyze their fighting skills and then transfer those fighting skills into her ninja robots.
Yes, the ninjas that we've seen this whole time were all working for her, and they were robots.
Exactly. Those ninja robots and Soju, dressed up as the Black Samurai, were just a distraction for a little bit, and they made sure to invite Scooby-Doo Mystery Inc. to solve this riddle that no one else could have possibly solved, which was mostly just Shaggy and Scooby having dumb luck.
Yeah. They brought in Mystery Inc. because they're the world's greatest detectives.
Right.
I did like this twist that they just let them do all the work for them.
Right. So they basically the whole Shoujo show was basically just a elaborate distraction to get Scooby-Doo and Shaggy and the rest of the gang to think it's a mystery. So once they've solved the mystery, they're going to resurrect this old samurai ghost and use that to put an end to technology, all the while using magical technology to accomplish their goal.
Well, I think it's more like, freedom and democracy and the American way that she hated more than, anything.
The tournament was just an excuse to gather the greatest martial artists from around the world. Using computer analysis, their various fighting styles were digitized into my ninja robots. After that, all I needed was to find someone who could solve the riddle of the Destiny Scroll. And who better than the world's greatest teenage detectives?
Tomorrow night, when the moon is full, I will resurrect the Black Samurai from the Sword of Doom. Once I have freed his spirit, he will call me Master.
No! This is madness!
Once the Black Samurai has returned, I will order him to lead my robot ninjas against the ignorant forces of this modern age.
Then the ancient world of the samurai and the new world of technology shall exist in perfect harmony.
They mentioned that the samurai was like basically a dictator and he had to be put down by a sword-fighting dragon.
Yeah.
That's how bad he was. So I think she just wanted to basically rule the world with her robot technology.
Yeah, she's very much a Japanese traditionalist. But she's not above using modern technology.
Like ninja robots, the most modern of technologies.
Exactly. Anyway, plot's revealed. The three unimportant characters, Fred, Velma, and Daphne, all get locked up in a broom closet along with the professor. So they're kind of out of the movie for the rest of it. They do one thing later. We'll bring that up. But Scooby and Shaggy, well, Scooby was wearing a jetpack the whole time, so they were able to get out of there with the Sword of Fate.
In an even worse chase sequence with even worse music.
This is the worst music. The first one was bad. This one's like, this wasn't even done by anybody who knows how to make music.
Yeah, this was not even a song. Like, the first one is a really bad instructional dance song, like the Macarena or something, where it's telling you how to do the samurai. And it's terrible, but you see what they're going for. This is just a series of vaguely Japanese-y non sequiturs, like domo arigato.
There's just a voice telling you to enjoy a flight.
Oh, yeah, that was it. I guess they were technically flying.
Konnichiwa. Welcome to Tokyo Airspace. It's nice to meet you. What is your name? Domo arigato, sayonara. May I have your ticket, please? Thank you very much. I have to go now. Bye-bye. Domo arigato, sayonara. Follow me. I will show you. I am sorry. I cannot help you. You are very nice. Please take my picture.
It was just awful. I think we can safely say that this is the nadir of the Scooby-Doo series, and if anything worse than that happens, I will quit on the spot.
You might just walk out of like the recording session when we get to the point that would make you quit.
Yeah, I'll just do it if we encounter anything worse than this. That's my pledge.
It seems like somebody who heard the concept of a techno song and had no reference point for what a techno song even was.
Exactly. He's like, a techno song is a song, well, I guess there's voices speaking non sequiturs and a keyboard demo track.
It's a lot like music, but it's not music.
It kind of reminds me of that bit from Look Around You, Music 2000.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, I've heard of an American music called rap music, where they talk over the music.
They talk over the music?
Yes, and the rhythm. And it's known as rap music.
Rap music?
Yes, and I definitely think we'll be listening to rap music in the year 2000.
Well, this is a first for me because I've certainly never heard rap music before.
It's like someone heard a techno song and was like, yeah, they use samples of people talking. I guess that's the whole song.
Yep. So they get there, they run into a very fateful sushi restaurant.
Yes, and this scene finally makes sense to me with the vegetarian revelation, because they encounter this cool sushi restaurant guy while they're fleeing from the ninjas, and you see him chopping up a fish, and Shaggy just looks absolutely disgusted. I was baffled by this when we watched it, because I was like, guys, you were just eating sushi earlier. Like, that's all it is. It's just sushi. It's even by 2009, everybody just eats sushi. It's not a weird thing. But then I realized, like, wait a minute, only Scooby ate the sushi. Yep. So, yeah, that's actually perfectly in character.
All the clues are there, Van. You just didn't notice them.
I wasn't following the gingerbread crumb trail down the path. It's all there, all in front of me.
I'm the last person I would have suspected, but I was looking for me all the time. It's the perfect crime.
So, it turns out the sushi restaurant is the Green Dragon sushi restaurant. And this guy knows exactly all about the Green Dragon and the Sword of Fate and the whole legend and everything.
Yeah. His name's Matsuhiro, and he's a returning Jackie Chan Adventures alumni.
Oh, right. Just like some of the characters in Scooby-Doo and the Yeti.
Yeah. This guy was the voice of Uncle. Oh, man. Now that would be a great crossover.
Man, there's so many. There's like 2 Kiss crossover movies now. There's a sequel to the Kiss crossover movie.
And 2 WWE.
I think there's like either it's an official or unofficial like Top Chef crossover.
I think it's official. I think they got, what's his name, like Bobby Flay.
Right. They have like an actual chef as sort of their marquee event.
Yeah. And next time they need to have like have them all go down to China and have like Jackie Chan. You don't even have to get the actual Jackie Chan. They already got the voice of the cartoon. Scooby-Doo in the Hong Kong hubbub or something like that.
You know, it's got to be amazing to have like Jackie Chan as a role you played on your resume.
I'm not Jackie Chan. I just play him on TV.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have the guy.
Yeah, so it turns out this guy knows everything about the Green Dragon, and he is ready to take Scooby-Doo and Shaggy on a magical quest to go to the 4 elemental gates and find the Green Dragon.
Yeah, so there's like a mini training montage, which I guess really couldn't last longer than a day.
No, honestly, I think they just cut some vines for an hour, and that was enough, and then they ran through gates for another hour.
Yeah. It's basically just like wash the windows, clean the car, and before they get to the cool elemental gates. And like you were saying earlier, it sort of turns into Avatar at this point, going through like the 4 elements, unlocking the chakras.
Water. Earth. Fire. Air. Earth, wind, fire, and air. We may look bad, but we don't care.
All right, so they go through the 4 gates. They have a fun lava surfing scene. It was sort of a highlight towards this end of the film.
Honestly, I was extremely fatigued by this point. Like, the film picks up after the absolute rock bottom it could hit with that stupid song. It does pick up because this samurai character is really fun.
Yeah, I wish he was in the whole film.
Yep. Putting a good character in the whole film? God,
I know.
Greedy Crowley. Greedy.
Yeah. They find the Green Dragon. I like the Green Dragon's design quite a bit. He's got this like cool kind of wrinkly Falcor look to him.
Yeah, he was definitely a like wrinkly hairless screen Falcor. Looked almost mummy-like since he's so old. I liked his design a lot too.
Yeah, so they talk to Green Dragon. They sort of just say they're samurais and he believes them.
But he says they don't look like samurai, so he outfits Scooby and Shaggy in some cool samurai armor.
Definitely. And then they fly to the final confrontation where Velma, Freddy, and Daphne have escaped along with the professor and his trusty assistant who does almost nothing in this film except talking Japanese slang and
be voiced by the sorely underutilized Gende Watanabe.
Right. And the gang that's escaped out of the broom closet has devised a strategy to use a neural EMP bomb to shut down all the electronic robot ninjas.
Yeah, and that wipes out all the ninjas, and then a second later, it wipes out all the power in Tokyo. And that's it. That has no effect on the plot or anything. I guess a lot of people just wind up dying as hospitals lose power for probably at least an hour throughout the entirety of Tokyo, and it has no impact on anything ever.
Yeah, so Scooby and Shaggy arrive. Well, I guess before that, what happens is they do a ritual to sort of to bring the actual samurai back to life.
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of turns on Miss Miyamoto and the rest of the gang.
Just completely shuts them down. Like, oh, you think I'm going to be your servant? How about we do it the other way, ma'am?
I am the master here. Bow before me, and I will give you the world.
Foolish one. It is you who shall call me master.
And I've never seen this situation happen before in a Scooby-Doo film.
Who could have predicted that the thing they tried to summon would be too powerful to control?
This part of the plot is exactly what happened in Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost.
Yeah, a lot of the plot is really Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost, where Tim Curry's character just brings the Scooby gang into town to solve the mystery for him. So we can get the cursed book, in this case it's a sword, summon up the big bad, and think it'll work for him. But then the big bad's like, who the heck are you? Heck no, I'm working for myself, man.
I have all the power, you have none of the power.
That's sort of how it works. I'm a free agent.
Miyomi has like a slight change of heart in the middle of this sort of thing where she runs away, and there's a fun like sword fight between her and Miyamoto. Because Miss Miyamoto has these like whip swords.
Oh, that was really cool. You know, she just pulls these 2 swords out, like dual wielding whip swords. So it's basically gets a little like Soul Calibur there.
Yeah, I mean, that soul's still burning.
A Scoob still burns.
The very last thing that happens in this film is Scooby and Shaggy arrive. Green Falcor dies and absorbs himself into the blade, and so that way he can lead their. He's not real. They're not. Scooby and Shaggy aren't really going to be fighting, but they're going to be fighting with the soul of the Green Falcor in the blade.
And it's actually a pretty great fight sequence. This was the first fight sequence that was both competent and exciting.
Yeah.
It's just Scooby-Doo doing their like almost Jackie Chan-esque joke around drunken master fighting style.
Yeah. Well, the two of them decide that the only way to fight is one of them sit on top of the other one's shoulders.
Yeah, so it's usually Scooby-Doo doing the swinging on Shaggy's back. I think they trade off at a couple points.
Yeah.
And it's honestly a great scene. I loved it.
Oh, they even get a run on water at one point, which is amazing.
Oh, yeah. That, of course, inspired the sequel coming down later in the line. Scooby-Doo and the Lance of Longinus.
Yeah. Scooby-Doo and the Da Vinci Code.
Scooby-Doo and the Sermon on the Mount. No, wouldn't it be great? Jesus is doing the Sermon on the Mount and multiplying all those loaves and fish, and Scooby and Shaggy are just shoveling them back as quick as he can make them.
Oh, I broke the mic on that one.
Oh, just imagine, it's all disappearing, and Jesus is like, all right, are we good here? Are we good? Like, keep them coming, man.
Amazing. They do a fun fight. It comes down to a really cool scene where they need to have no thoughts in their head in order to defeat the samurai, and they're like we never think about anything but food.
And then, of course, they go to defeat him, and then he's like, "Fool, no man can defeat me. It was prophesied." And then Daphne's like, "I am no man," and kills him. But of course that didn't happen because they decided that Daphne's fighting skills were completely irrelevant and forgot about them around Act 1.
Nope, it was Scooby going completely mindless, and then the sword guide this final strike.
Yeah. So it was nice and climactic.
Yep. The spirit of the old samurai who bought the sword thanks them for freeing him from this eternal prison.
Voiced by George Takei.
Right. Oh, yeah, that was good. I mean, as good as it can be.
Thank you, most honored friends. You have released my spirit from the evil power of that cursed sword and saved your world. I shall be eternally grateful. You are indeed samurai, and your legend shall be told forever.
And then they decide because Scooby-Doo saved the world, he should also get a statue in Shibuya.
Yep. And the museum is open now with a bunch of new stuff, thanks to the legend of the samurai sword and Scooby-Doo.
Also, it got a real on top of that, the new museum got a really good location upgrade. It's in the middle of a park now, which is optimal museum location now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they really monetized that fast.
Amazing. They offer Miyumi to join the crew, and she's like, I don't want to anymore, I guess. I don't want... my character's never coming back. Let's face it, this is Scooby-Doo and the Samurai Sword.
Nobody cares. Come on. I appreciate you're making the effort, but really, we know what's going on here.
All those named characters from this tournament, they're just standing in the background, just kind of onlooking, we're here too, I guess.
Oh, yeah, I guess we're back now from Act 1.
Mm-hmm.
You remember us? We're still not relevant, but we're here.
Yeah, so that's Scooby-Doo and the Samurai Sword. Let's go to our rating scale and see how it shakes out.
And it would have been mine if it hadn't been for those meddling kids.
Chase sequences, that's on a 5-point scale is how we do this. So chase sequences, I mean, the music kind of knocks it down to it's not the absolute worst. I think I'd only give it a 1 if the chase sequences didn't exist at all.
Yeah, well, I would give the chase sequences a 2, just if we hit mute. I mean, they're pretty much by the numbers. Well, the first one's by the numbers with all the stupid puns. The second one is just a really boring jetpack thing. but the music brings it down. I'm going to say no stars. This scene is darker. This is a place where no stars shine.
Yeah, I would say the chase scenes are definitely like the worst they can be. If you count the action sequence with it, I might bump it up to a 3.
The fights were good. We don't have a fight scale because there's not
going to be many fights, but I put it in the same category. So it's the music kind of makes it all terrible. So.
Yeah, I cannot grade them with that music there.
Mystery. How'd you give this one?
It's not really a mystery movie. It's just like a globe-trotting movie, and that's actually kind of fun at points. Like, I really would like to see Scooby-Doo and the National Treasure, where there's usually in a Scooby-Doo mystery, there's a mystery at the front. They're investigating that, uncovering those things. With a National Treasure type Globetrotter mystery, the clues are always go to A, go to B, go to C. So it's a different sort of mystery, which I feel you can't really compare. So on like the traditional mystery scale, like I'd say a 1, but for what it was attempting, I guess like a 2 or 3, 2.5.
Honestly, a 2. It didn't even accomplish what it wanted to do that well.
Yeah, now I just want to see like Scooby-Doo and the National Treasure. Scooby-Doo and the Nicolas Cage.
Scooby-Doo meets Nicolas Cage would be amazing.
Yeah. So for the potential, I think I have no choice but 5 stars.
I mean, Nicolas Cage, he's kind of taking any role at this point, right? Like, just really any role.
I just love acting. I'll do anything.
Well, that, and he also has a lot of debt to pay off.
I have like 5 castles. You can get the Scooby Gang and film them in there.
Oh my God, that'd be perfect.
Mr. Cage, you know they're not real. Not of course, they're characters. They're actors. Like me, I'm an actor.
At the height of his property buying spree, he bought what's supposed to be the most haunted house in New Orleans.
Scooby-Doo in the Castle of Cage.
Yes.
Oh, that needs to happen.
I mean, it's obvious, and it should happen. And if I ever gain control of the Scooby-Doo franchise, by hook or by crook, I'm going to do it.
Well, in our upcoming Casey Kasem interview, that's what we'll lay on. I'm like, sir, can I have these rights? Okay.
And then what's our last one?
Supernatural element.
This is better. If you're looking for a supernatural element, this one has that sort of classic Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island twist to that. It starts out as a traditional mystery, and then it turns out there's actually magic going on.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not bad plot-wise, and I guess I sort of got to boost the supernatural stuff just because the backstory with those ukiyo-e drawings.
Yeah, so I give that a 3.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a 4. It's not good, but it definitely did it. Like, if this had been the weakest element in the movie, I would have been happy. Unfortunately, this is the strongest element of the film.
Yeah, I'd say a 3 as well. Just because the supernatural stuff was... Well, the best supernatural stuff was action supernatural. It wasn't even trying for, like, spooky supernatural.
Definitely not.
And it was delightful for what it was with the fight scene at the end. So, yeah, I'd say, like, a 3, maybe even a 4 if we're going out of 5.
If we're going out of 5, I respect the 4. I'm not going to give it to it because I know there's a better one.
Yeah, you're right. I guess a 3.5.
Well, we're not giving out halves.
Oh, no half stars here.
Man,
no half measures.
Man, if you give a half star one more time, I'm off this podcast.
I'm walking.
Final Judgments. This is like a very disappointing Scooby-Doo movie, right?
Oh, yeah. This is what I was worried that the Yeti film was going to be.
Right. We went into the Yeti film expecting something on this level of quality, and it might be that we sort of recalibrated because we thought the Yeti film was, like, pretty serviceable. Like, I'd put it up there with, like, you know, obviously made for, you know, it's not like a high production film, and they sort of cut some corners plot-wise, but, like, pretty fun, and, like, they got interesting characters, and they gave them something to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one reminded me of how much I like Scooby-Doo, even mediocre Scooby-Doo. Maybe I'm just being charitable, but if this can hit like mediocre levels throughout, I'm gonna be really happy doing the show. But oh man, this was a slog. Ugh.
I mean, I'm feeling a little bit like Casey Kasem in 2009 right now because I'm not sure how I'm gonna feel about the next Scooby-Doo project.
The last episode.
But I'll keep going because this is only the second time. Mm-hmm. Casey Kasem was doing it for 40 years around that point.
Yeah, that's not even 3 strikes. That is like 3 dozen strikes, I am sure.
It's sort of like fool me once, shame on me. fool me 50 times. All right, let's cut it out, guys.
I'm walking. I'm Casey Kasem, and I'm walking here.
But yeah, I think that's going to do it for us this week. And make sure you join us next week when we
do it all again. You've made that joke every podcast. The Alzheimer's is really setting in.
Oh, wow. No, I'm fairly certain I sent that to you in a text and I didn't make it on the podcast.
Mac, the year's 2050. We've been doing this our whole lives, and I've just watched you slip away episode by episode. Scooby-Doo is killing you one show at a time.
The amazing thing is that every single time we redo a movie, I have the exact same thoughts about it. Pitch perfect.
Oh, God.